What's up, Taiwan? I'm Sanichi with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. South Korea's Defense Minister Kim Yoon has offered to resign as the political fallout from President Yoon Suk-yeol's short-lived martial law declaration continues. It comes as the country's legislature weighs a bill to impeach Yoon over the incident. The move could see him removed from office. An impeachment vote is expected before December 7. Yoon sent South Korea into political turmoil after he declared martial law late on Tuesday. He was forced to revoke the order hours later. That's after lawmakers who were able to get past a military and police barrier voted unanimously to block the declaration. Thousands of protesters also gathered around the country's parliament, clashing with authorities. Here in Taiwan, ruling party lawmakers are distancing themselves from the comments they initially made about the unexpected declaration of martial law by South Korea's president. But opposition lawmakers are not letting the comments slide. Chiung has more.
As the world watched chaos unfold in Seoul after President Yoon Suk-yeol declared emergency martial law, Taiwan's ruling Democratic Progressive Party took to social media, posting this on its official account representing the party's lawmakers, seemingly comparing South Korea's situation to Taiwan by listing how the opposition Kuomintang and Taiwan People's Party, who together control the legislature, have either blocked or, quote, maliciously amended the rule of law. The post has since been deleted after it drew a backlash from opposition lawmakers and others who saw it as apparent support of martial law. The DPP was quick to clarify, explaining in a second post that there was no intention to support the imposition of martial rule, and that they were simply relaying international news and comparing it with the domestic political situation. Ultimately, they expressed regret for causing a commotion, a message reiterated by party lawmakers in person.
我们党团的发文，那随即有删文撤下。这就表达民进党团正式的立场，我们不会不应去过度的评论他国的内政，我们要做的是安国人的心，也要避免慎防造成社会过多的误解跟不必要的对立。
The DPP was born when the now opposition Kuomintang, or KMT, was in power, a brutal post-war martial law era that lasted nearly 4 decades. The DPP lawmakers acknowledged this in their updated post, saying they know how harmful martial law is to democracy. But this has not appeased their opposition counterparts, who continue to question why the DPP appeared to support what was an unpopular and now unsuccessful martial law order in Seoul. The KMT has also accused the DPP of attempting to quash dissenting voices and are demanding more than an expression of regret.
如果这就是民进党上下的态度，认为戒严是可以消灭不同的声音。 容不下任何一粒沙子，容不下任何不同声音的话，那真的就坐实了。绝对的权力使人绝对的腐化。如果民进党团还是没有愿意为这个贴文道歉的话，你们对不起民主2个字。
The KMT has also called on President Lai Ching-te, who is out of the country visiting allies in the Pacific, to apologize for his party mates' comments. They have made it clear they have nothing more to say. As South Korean President Yoon now faces impeachment, his shock martial law decree has also caused chaos here in neighboring Taiwan, fanning the flame of political infighting, with each party pushing for what it believes is a democratic society. Luffy Lee and Joyce Zin for TaiwanPlus.
Some military analysts are raising concerns about the suitability of Taiwan's new US-made Abrams tanks, the first batch of which are due to arrive by the end of the month, with dozens more expected in the future. They've been described as some of the most powerful on Earth. A fully equipped Abrams weighs over 70 tons and is roughly 8 meters long, much longer than the Taiwan's current M60 tanks, which weigh close to 55 tons and are less than 7 meters long. And that's what some say is the problem. Their size could make them unsuitable for Taiwan's dense major cities. For more on Taiwan's new tanks and how they could be used in the conflict, our reporter Jaime Ocon spoke to Raymond Guo, a security analyst at the RAND Corporation.
So Raymond, Taiwan has reportedly received the first batch of these new U.S. Abrams tanks. I want to first ask, how are these tanks going to be used in Taiwan's defense?
Now, for this particular Abrams component, the idea is that if there's in case of invasion, you need some kind of ground force with which to repel the attack, particularly in terms of beachheads. If the Chinese can establish a beachhead in one of those was it 14, I think, red beaches? Well, you need to have something there that can knock them back into the sea. Tanks can be one of those things, but there are also a variety of other kind of operational strategies that we can discuss, other tactics we can discuss that might be more cost effective. It's, at least in my mind, there's a fairly limited role. It's almost kind of like a break glass kind of emergency. If the Chinese have a beachhead, that's when you use these guys.
Now, these tanks are pretty massive, and given how dense some of Taiwan's major cities are, do you think these tanks are suitable for this kind of terrain?
In terms of an urban environment, no, the Abrams tanks are not suited whatsoever. Tanks tend to do extremely poorly when they're in an urban environment because you can just kind of toss things down to the top of them where they have the thinnest armor. Also, they're very, very heavy. And so just rolling a tank down the street will pretty much tear up most streets. Bridges have to be made so that they can support the weight of such a vehicle as well. Now, so in an urban environment, the tanks tend to have relatively little utility. That said, there are geographic situations pertinent to Taiwan where they could have an impact or a pretty decisive impact. So, for example, if we're talking about beachheads, and so in rough terrain, you will want tracked heavy vehicles. You also want armor that can withstand, say, artillery barrages. The expectation is that China will be barraging these beaches or kind of the surrounding areas. So, if you want to dislodge that beachhead, you need a vehicle that can actually survive that kind of force.
These tanks are a bit of a deviation from the smaller asymmetric weapons route that many people say that Taiwan should be following. Do you think that these tanks are still a positive step in Taiwan's defense?
Taiwan has been investing quite a lot in the asymmetric capabilities. I think, if I recall correctly, it produces more anti-ship missiles than the United States does. Now, there's a question about modernization of those systems. Do I think that there's a possibility that Taiwan would leave the asymmetric defense? I think the biggest thing in my mind is not operational necessity, but more about politics. There's also a prestige angle as well. I've written about this in the past that because Taiwan doesn't have a security commitment from the United States, it needs to take signals of, U.S. commitment wherever it can find it. One of those things is prestige platforms. So, an F-35, an F-16 Block V, even the Abrams tanks to some extent, the utility is not just in the operational side, but also in the sense that, if the Chinese shoot down one of these planes, it's another sign that the United States, by giving us or selling us these weapons, really values Taiwan.
That was Raymond Guo, security analyst at the RAND Corporation. Taiwanese university and high school students are protesting a visiting Chinese delegation, calling their exchanges fake and saying they are part of Chinese United Front tactics. Cadence Caranta reports.
拒绝统战，对等交流。
Inside Taiwan's legislature, university and high school students are speaking out against the Chinese delegation currently in the country. The group of students and athletes was invited by former President Ma Ying-jeou's foundation, an effort it says is to foster cross-strait communication and exchanges. But students here say these exchanges are fake and that there didn't seem to be a desire for real communication. They say when the delegation came to their universities, they were kept in the dark about it.
That happened at NTU, but as a student from NTU, we have no open information. We have no way to know when and where it's going to happen.
The local students say they wanted to speak with the group about democracy and human rights issues in China.
我们希望可以分享台湾的经验给中国，但是很遗憾的，从中国同学回避接触、快步离去的结果来看，中国的参访团其实丝毫不想与我们进行真正的交流。
The students accuse the Chinese delegation of being part of Beijing's attempts to undermine Taiwan's sovereignty, as Taiwan's Chinese Affairs Office says almost all of the Chinese students are affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party. Some Taiwanese legislators have also raised concerns, as have some local groups, who accuse the students of being used as United Front tools. Also sparking backlash is a comment from a Chinese student in the delegation referring to Taiwan's national baseball team as China Taipei, instead of its official name, Chinese Taipei.
The foundation's CEO has dismissed concerns about the delegation's CCP ties and has stressed the importance of the exchanges to maintaining peace across the strait. But some say they likely won't have any immediate impact, even if they do create some communication between the two sides.
These exchanges might introduce some mutual understanding among the participants involved. They might communicate it to other people. However, I don't think that, at least at this stage, it really matters because none of these students are yet in positions of power. Maybe it'll matter in 20 or 30 years, but at this point, I think it's largely irrelevant.
The delegation still has a little more time in Taiwan, and many around the country are keeping a close eye on the group's movements. Justin Wu, Jeremy Olivier, and Cadence Quaranta for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan has become the world's second largest supplier of semiconductor manufacturing equipment, overtaking South Korea. New figures from industry group Semi show Taiwan's third quarter revenue from sales of semiconductor equipment was $4.69 billion. It's a year-on-year increase of 19%. China stayed in first place at $12.93 billion. Taiwan is the world's top producer of high-end semiconductors. But as the new numbers show, its share of the market for equipment is also growing. Taiwanese romance novelist Chiung has died in an apparent suicide at the age of 86. Police say Chung-san found the writer dead at her home in New Taipei. Chung had posted a video on her social media saying she wanted to control how she died rather than succumbing to old age. Chung was born Chenzhe in Chengdu in China's Sichuan province. She came with her family to Taiwan in 1949 following the Chinese Civil War. Despite having only a high school education, Chung went on to become one of the biggest names in Chinese language literature. Stephen Liu, known as the Godfather of Chinese language pop music, has died of cancer. Liu composed over 2,000 songs throughout his career and was a towering figure in mandopop from the 1970s to the early 80s. He produced many tracks, which helped establish several stars, including Taiwan's iconic Teresa Deng. Local media reported that tumors were discovered in Liu's brain and lungs earlier this year. Liu was in his early 80s. A park in Taitung on Taiwan's east coast has a rare visitor, a Siberian goose, making the most of a good stopover spot on its annual migration south. John Van Triest has the story.
Visitors to Haibin Park along the coast of Taidong City are in for a special treat. This tundra bean goose is an unusual visitor to this part of Taiwan. These geese migrate south each winter from their summer breeding grounds in northern Siberia. But if wildlife surveys are accurate, this is only the 12th time a tundra bean goose has visited this area since 2007. Locals have been intrigued by this duck-like creature. Though this goose appears scared of dogs, people may get as close as they like. The park has plenty for the goose to eat and makes for a nice rest stop before this visitor moves on further south. For local birdwatchers with an interest in lesser spotted species, its appearance is a special opportunity. Alex Chen and John Van Triest for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, we leave you with images of the lighting of the U.S. Capitol Christmas tree. I'm Sandy Chi. Take care and see you next time. For more stories from Taiwan and around the world, download the TaiwanPlus app.